What do you want? No Yahanga here.
Good luck then.
There's nothing to see here.
What happened to Yochanka?
Nothing good, I'm sorry to say. She was locked up by the papal inquisitor Bishop Yaroslav of Benishov. It seems he somehow caught wind of this preaching of hers. He's accused her of spreading heresy and had her placed under arrest.
Right. I'll go and see this Bishop Yaroslav of Benishov.
May God go with you. And thank you, Henry. I'm glad you're standing up for Yochanka. If you need anything, do come and see me.
God be with you. What do you want? No Yahanga. What do you want? No Yahanga here. There's nothing to see. Damn.
So, I am...
Henry of Scarlet, from the garrison of the Royal Hetman, Sir Radzig Kobyla. I've heard a lot about you, my son. I'm pleased to meet you.
Bishop Yaroslav, sir, my lord, to what do I owe your interest in my humble self?
I was told you survived the massacre in Skalitz and warned the Townburg garrison. You tracked down the raiders of a stud farm in Neuhof, wasn't it? To their hideout in the woods. And then you led Sir Radzig and his armed company there and joined bravely in the skirmish, and even killed their notorious leader by your own hand. And I believe you have many other deeds to your name. That's quite remarkable, considering your age, is it not?
Well, you're too kind, Monsignor. I'm just trying to do what's right, and what's needed.
Quite rightly, too, my son. I expect we'll be hearing more about you. But I assume you didn't come here to exchange pleasantries. Or am I mistaken?
No, Monsignor, you're quite right. I'm here about Yochanka.
Naturally. I'd be quite surprised if it were otherwise. So, tell me what's on your mind.
Why did you have her imprisoned?
Because she broke the promise she made to me and persisted in actions that bear the signs of heresy.
How did you find out about Yochanka?
Word came to me of what was happening here, that some young girl was claiming to speak for the Blessed Virgin. I traveled here immediately, as my duty demanded, and observed events in Sasau incognito, in order to examine the matter at first hand.
I see. And what will happen to Yochanka now?
I must weigh the gravity of her transgressions and investigate these alleged visions of hers. I consider it very improbable that she is indeed being visited by the Blessed Virgin. Nevertheless, I cannot at this time rule it out entirely.
So you think it could be true? In that case, Yochanka hasn't done anything wrong.
It's not that straightforward. Even if her visions were real, she was at fault for interpreting them as she saw fit and preaching to the people.
When will you decide, Monsignor?
As soon as I am fully informed of the facts, although it seems the matter is a little more complicated than I first thought. I will call Yochanka and the witnesses, question them, and then pronounce a verdict.
And will there be anyone there to defend Yochanka?
Do you doubt my judgment?
I would never be so bold, sir. But surely it would be only just that someone should speak for Yochanka about all her good deeds and so forth.
Naturally, I will also question those who would speak in her defense. Since you are interceding, I expect you have someone in mind?
Yes. Actually, me.
As I surmised. But this matter does not directly concern you. Why should I allow you to appear before the court?
Yochanka is my neighbour, and I have a Christian duty to come to her aid. I can't just stand by and do nothing.
I have to concur with you on that. Your concern seems sincere, so I will grant your request. Very well. You will defend Yochanka. You may speak in her defense if you so wish, and you may also bring witnesses. I will question any such witnesses, and naturally I shall question Yochanka too.
Thank you, Monsignor. In that case, I'll need to speak to Yochanka first.
That won't be possible. It's forbidden by the Inquisition procedure. Until the entire matter is resolved, Yochanka can speak only to me and no one else. I would like to expedite the matter. The trial will take place in Sasau Church in 3 days' time at the latest. Come and let me know when you're ready to proceed. In the meantime, I will continue my investigation.
Very well, Monsignor. I had better get on with it then, sir. Farewell.
Before you go, you know Yochanka longer than anyone else. You spent a lot of time with her, as I've discovered. Tell me, my son, truthfully, what do you think of this whole affair?
Yochanka helped a lot of people. She worked her fingers to the bone helping Brother Nicodemus with the sick and injured.
That is certainly commendable. What else can you tell me about her?
Johanka is an honest girl and virtuous. She's a good Christian who attends church and thinks of others.
Good. Please continue.
She's worried about Matthias. He's from Skalitz too, and she's very fond of him. But he was wounded in a raid on Merhojed recently, and since then he's been lying in a fever. Johanka believes that if she does what the Blessed Virgin wants of her, Matthias might be healed.
Interesting. Anything else?
About the Virgin Mary? I believe the Virgin does visit her. Johanka is honest. She wouldn't lie about such a thing. And the things she says sound truthful and compelling. It really does seem like a heavenly revelation. Who else could it be from but the Virgin Mary?
The origin of these so-called visions of hers must be investigated. But thank you for your candor. Is there anything else you can tell me?
Well, before, in Skalitz, Johanka was sort of, well, just a simple village girl. I never imagined I'd hear her talking the way she does now. She's completely transformed.
A simple village girl. I see. Do continue.
Maybe. She didn't treat everyone equally. She took better care of her former Skalitz neighbours than of the other patients, of course.
It's understandable, yes. Some people are dearer to her than others, but whether by doing so she sinned. Anything else, Henry?
Well, Sir Sebastian took a fancy to Johanka and made certain advances towards her. And I think she might have got involved with him.
Sebastian von Berg, the custodian? But to my knowledge, the man is married.
But it's all over now. She's finished with him, really.
So, the gossip about her fornication here is truthful. What else can you tell me?
That's about all I can tell you.
Thank you, my son. One more thing before you go. Let me remind you that it's your Christian duty to report anything suspicious going on concerning the church and the true faith, if you're aware of anything of the sort in these parts. If you prove yourself a commendable servant of the church, I would also take that into account in judging Johanka's case.
All right, Monsignor. I'll bear that in mind.
God be with you.
I'll have to get something to eat. I'm starting to get hungry. Monsignor, I've heard of various irregularities in the province that might be of interest to you.
Very good, my son. A good Christian certainly shouldn't conceal such things. Please, speak.
There are interesting things going on inside the monastery.
In the monastery? What kind of things?
The cicadas get drunk on wine and play dice in the monastery cellars at night.
But how do you know about it? How does a servant of the royal hetman come by knowledge of the confidential affairs of the Brotherhood of Monks?
I caught wind of it. I heard it from a novice that the brothers were sending out at night to buy wine for them.
I see. And what was the name of this novice?
Yodok.
There is a novice of that name at the monastery. I shall have to speak to the prior about these matters. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. If you've nothing else to tell me, you may leave.
A demon's skull was found on the church building site.
Yes. I heard something about it. A disturbing report. Tell me what you know about it.
It was a deception, sir. Someone made it with evil intentions, to frighten people. I found the skull and brought it to the local knacker. He confirmed it was a human skull with animal horns stuck on.
You did the right thing, Henry. in uncovering the deception and in telling me about it.
There were Valdensians hiding in Ujits.
Really? And how did you find out about it?
Sir Hanush sent me to help the vicar track them down and catch them.
So, Sir Hanush had an interest in finding them?
Yes, that's right.
I'm pleased to hear it. It's not always possible to see eye to eye with secular lords in such matters. And how did it end up with the members of the sect?
They fled. The vicar is still trying to track them down.
That's unfortunate. Let's hope the vicar succeeds promptly in his mission.
Some women in Ujits went to the herbalist for magic ointment. Then they went to the woods, smeared this ointment on themselves, and engaged in all sorts of incantations and spells.
What? Witchcraft? God have mercy. They must be brought to justice. Who is this herbalist they visited?
Not to worry, Monsignor. Father Godwin put a stop to it.
Well, that's good news at least. Witchcraft will not be tolerated under any circumstances.
The former parish priest of Rovna, Father Simon, went missing one day. Everyone thought he'd fled from the province, but in fact he just went to the woods and became a hermit.
I see. Why did he do that?
I couldn't tell you.
That's a pity. But I'm glad you told me about him.
Well, the parish priest in Ujits is rather unorthodox. Not that he's a bad person, not at all. He takes good care of his flock, no doubt. It's just that he drinks quite a lot. In fact, he's even said mass while drunk. And, he keeps a concubine.
That distresses me. All the more so because what you describe isn't at all unique amongst the clergy. Thank you for telling me, Henry. Matters like this certainly must be addressed.
That's all, Monsignor.
All right, Henry. Thank you. But I hope you're not keeping anything from me.
Monsignor, Yochanka is just a simple village girl from Scallis. Are all these legal proceedings really necessary?
They are. The mission of the Inquisition is quite unequivocal, and however trivial, this matter has a broader significance.
What broader significance?
No offense, but these things can't easily be explained to an uneducated boy like you. Still, I'm pleased that you take an interest. Unfortunately, I don't have time for this now. If you really want to know more, ask my assistant. After all, it is also our duty to guide others through the labyrinth of this world. Good luck, then.
How's it going?
The bishop told me this business with Yochanka has a wider context, and that you tell me about it.
Oh, very well. If the bishop says so. Look, it's like this. The world as a whole is not in a good state. For decades, people have been perishing from a terrible sickness, the Black Death. There's an anti-pope in Avignon in France who defies the authority of the throne of St. Peter. The people are frightened. Many of the nobles, instead of caring for peace on earth, are warring one against another. The authority of many monarchs, and even the emperor, is unfortunately too weak to put things to rights. Many scholars have even started to question established truths, and various contentious teachings have appeared, such as those of the Englishman Wycliffe.
The Black Death?
The plague, my child. A dreadful disease that claimed countless lives. By the grace of God, these parts were not much afflicted, but it took a terrible toll in the surrounding countries. First, the Italian ports were stricken, Venice and Genoa, and then nearly the whole of Christendom. Some regard it as God's punishment for our sins, or even a sign of the approaching parousia.
Paro what?
The parousia, the second coming of Christ, the day when he returns to this world will mark the end of the ages. The dead will rise, and all people will face final judgment for their sins.
Oh. Do you think that's going to happen?
Most assuredly. But God alone knows when that will be.
I hope it won't be too soon. The anti-pope?
Unfortunately, that's a very serious and unpleasant topic. In short, alongside the legitimate Pope, the Bishop of Rome, and successor to St. Peter, another was elected and is usurping the highest glory of being Christ's representative here on earth. This is a most lamentable schism for the whole Church, and the Avignon usurper must be compelled to give up his unlawfully acquired office, so the Church and the whole of Christendom may again be unified.
So there are two popes?
Not quite. There is only one, but there are those who refuse to recognize him. The election wasn't correct and valid, and I apologize. It wasn't wise to speak to you of this. It will only confuse you all the more. Better forget it. We won't talk about it anymore.
You mentioned the Emperor.
God wants unity, a universal order of the world. The Pope, Christ's deputy, and the Emperor, the supreme earthly ruler, crowned by the Pope himself, were instituted in order to preside over that unity. Unfortunately, the gleam of the imperial crown has become somewhat dulled, and his authority is no longer as absolute as it once was. What's worse, his election has become a political game involving many princes, and for a long time the emperor himself has paid less attention to the affairs of the Christian world and more to his own concerns.
I see. And what about these scholars?
That's complicated. Some reject the authority of the Pope or the Church. Others dispute over the legitimacy of government or the nature of the world. Others rebel against teachings. All of them seek all sorts of arguments and explanations to support their claims and argue with others. All this contributes to uncertainty. One doubt leads to another, and soon heretical ideas take hold. But don't concern yourself. These are weighty matters for others who are learned in such things.
Of course. Peace on earth?
Yes. Sadly, many countries are torn apart by strife and destroyed by war. In the lands of the English, the French, the Italians, in the Holy Roman Empire, Christians are raising their weapons against other Christians. Love for our neighbour has given way to the pursuit of mammon and high office. They plot against each other to gain advantage. You've seen it yourself, right here in Bohemia, and even in Sasau.
Yes. And in Skalitz.
Indeed, my son. Regrettably.
But what does all this mean? What has it got to do with Yochanka?
As I say, the order of the world is shaken. Division is spreading, and confusion and iniquity thrive. It's the handiwork of Lucifer, who wants to lay waste to God's creation. Many have succumbed to his false truths and spread them to others. That's why we must be alert to his snares, especially in these times. Be wary of false prophets and stick to the path of the true faith and personal virtue.
And Yochanka?
Just so. I fear she too may have been ensnared by Lucifer's deceptions and the false belief that she's been visited by the Blessed Virgin. These machinations of the devil must be faced and stamped out before they take root and cause more evil. But we must not despair. Even those who have strayed from the right path may be redeemed. And that's why Yochanka's case is important. Although, it may not be immediately apparent.
I understand. Thanks. I won't bother you anymore.
God be with you.
Adela, the Inquisitor is going to try Yochanka in court.
Oh, Lord. I hope she's acquitted. I was absolutely devastated when they took her away.
I need people to speak in her defence, and I'd like to ask you to do it.
I don't want to go there. Really. I'm afraid of that Inquisitor. But you helped me, and so did Yochanka. It's only right that I should try and help her. But what am I supposed to say there? I'm just a simple village girl. I don't know anything about these things.
That doesn't matter. You just be yourself. It should be enough to talk about all the good Yochanka does here, and how she helps others. I'll send for you if you're needed.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Brother Nicodemus,
You've heard something?
the Inquisitor has decided that Yochanka will be tried, but he's agreed that I can defend her.
That's really quite unusual. It must mean he hasn't come to a clear conclusion yet.
Yes. I'll get her out of it.
I'm afraid it may not be that easy. The thing is, I expect Yochanka will say the same things before the court that she's been preaching.
What are you saying?
Well, I've been thinking about what she's been saying, and it seems to me her preaching has a certain progression. Are you acquainted with the notion of the three orders of man?
Yeah, I heard something about it. Those who work, those who pray, and those who fight. But what's all that got to do with Yochanka?
Well, I noticed in her first sermon she primarily addressed the concerns of the common folk, and in the second, she criticised the nobility.
I won't get any sleep. I just won't get any sleep.
So you think she might start talking about the church?
Yes, I'm afraid she might. I dread to think how that might end up. Henry, you must warn her against that. She must show humility before the Inquisitor, and the wisest course would be to admit to being wrong. She's rather stubborn, but perhaps she'll listen to you.
But the Inquisitor said no one's allowed to see her.
No one except the Inquisitor's own men. You'll just have to think something up. I'm afraid Yochanka's fate is mainly in your hands now. I'm relying on you.
See you later.
I need something from you, sir. I suppose you heard that Yochanka was locked up by the Inquisitor and is facing charges of heresy.
I did, and it's most disturbing news.
What you might not know is that he's agreed that I can defend her at the trial.
You? Do you even know what to say?
Sure I know. It'll turn out just fine. Trust me. But I need you to testify at the court. In Yochanka's defence, of course.
Naturally. You don't think I could just sit here and do nothing? Besides, the bishop has already insisted that I appear before the court.
Oh. All right.
One moment. I apologize if I was a little hasty. This whole affair has left me anxious. I appreciate that you want to defend her. However, I don't think it would have any effect. No offense, but I don't think you'll be able to achieve anything in court. I'm afraid the Inquisitor will judge as he sees fit, whatever anyone says. but I have an idea how you could help.
Oh? How's that?
Flee. With Yochanka, of course.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm sure Yochanka will be acquitted by the court and everything will be alright. Running would just confirm the Inquisitor's suspicions, and she'd always be looking over her shoulder.
I don't agree. As I said, I don't believe you can affect the outcome of the court. If Yochanka flees, yes, she'll have to lie low for a while, but in time it will all blow over. You can take her anywhere, as long as it's far enough from here. A girl like that will always find her feet. She can easily hide out somewhere where she's not known. Maybe there could even be a place for her on my estate. Think about it. But whatever you decide, if Yochanka comes to any harm, you'll have me to answer to. I'm very fond of her, and her of me, and I don't want anything to happen to her, understand? But if everything ends well, I'll show you my gratitude, I assure you. Goodbye.
Could do with a bite to eat.
God almighty, has something happened to you? Did someone steal your fancy clothes? Goodbye.
Goodman Pavel, you're still here. That's a relief. I was afraid I'd miss you.
Yes, still here, but not for long. I had some business to deal with, but now that's out of the way and I'm getting ready to leave. What was it you wanted?
You might have heard that Yochanka was arrested by the Inquisitor and is facing trial.
Indeed, word has reached me. Poor girl.
I'd like to ask you to speak to the court in Yochanka's defense.
Of course, Henry. You have my word. And the word of a burgher of Colleen ought to mean something. But to speak in defense of someone accused of heresy is no small matter. What do you want me to say?
The same thing you told me. That it was a sacred sign that you happened to be nearby when Yochanka was speaking, and so on.
True. I'll tell the bishop that. You can rest assured.
Thank you very much. Please wait here a few more days for the court to convene, then I'll send for you.
All right. For Yochanka's sake, I'll wait. Take care. Hey.
I'm at your service, Sir Knight. Take care. Good luck then.
Sizes and flavours.
Master Bailiff, Inquisitor Yaroslav is going to try Yochanka.
I know. He was here asking questions too.
Oh? What did he want to know?
Various things, like how things are here, whether people are honest, whether we observe the fest days and so forth. And then he asked about Yochanka, about what she preaches, whether people come to listen to her and that. He's been talking to a lot of other people in Sasau too. I even heard that Katra, the swordsmith's wife, invited him to dine with them.
That's interesting. Thanks for telling me. Was he just asking questions, or does he want you to testify before the court?
Yes, he did ask me to testify, and I'm none too happy about it.
I see. And what are you going to say about her?
It depends what I'm asked, but there's not much I can say. I don't know Yochanka very well. She seems virtuous and self-sacrificing to me. She's never done anything wrong, and no one here ever had a cross word to say about her. Until recently. Maybe some gossip about her and Sir Sebastian. But I've heard similar talk about half the women folk here.
Yochanka has helped a lot of people here, selflessly. Her heart is in the right place.
True. But then there's that preaching of hers. Folk have been falling out. They're split according to whether they believe Yochanka or not. I don't know quite what to think of it myself. But I don't want to jump to conclusions. I'll wait and see what the learned bishop has to say.
Couldn't you add something good to your testimony for Yochanka? I would, show my gratitude substantially.
What? Are you trying to bribe me to commit perjury? The Inquisitor will hear how you're going about defending Yochanka.
Good Lord, no, I wouldn't dream of it. I expressed myself badly, that's all. What I was trying to say, rather clumsily, is that I'd be very glad if you were to speak on Yochanka's behalf, because she really deserves it.
Well, I'll overlook your clumsiness then.
Thank you, Master Bailiff.
May the Lord watch over you.
Well, how did it go with that husband of mine?
I played him and took him for everything he had.
I see. So he played again.
I had a heart-to-heart talk with him, and in the end, he promised he wouldn't gamble again. He even gave me his dice.
That sounds promising. Thank you, Henry. But what about the money he lost? Did you give it back to him?
Yeah, I gave it back to him so he can buy what he needs.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Henry.
I need your help with something. I'm sure you've heard. Yochanka was locked up by the Inquisitor.
Who hasn't? The whole of Sasso was talking about it. And the Inquisitor was asking around about her.
I'd like to ask you to appear before the court and say something in Yochanka's defence.
I can't say I'm keen on going there. But Yochanka helped me. And you did too. I think it's only right that someone should say something good about her.
Ah, thanks, Guta. I appreciate it. I'll send for you when it's time.
Good God. What happened to your clothes? If you were robbed, you should report it. God be with you.
Father, the Inquisitor has had Yochanka thrown in jail.
I know, son.
He's planning a hearing.
Rightly so. It's about time this whole matter was dealt with.
What do you think about it, then?
As I say, it's a good thing that the matter is being investigated. The things Yochanka has been preaching are, to say the least, disturbing. Who knows what these dreams are that she speaks of? And her words are only putting ideas in people's heads and leading them astray. Now, instead of going to church, as they should, they go to her in the false belief that they will find solace. It's creating a chasm between the people and the church and leading them away from the true teaching left to us by Christ. They're misguided and swamped in heretical ideas.
But Yochanka is no heretic. She's a good, kind girl who's only trying to do the right thing. I'll defend her.
Suit yourself. But mind you don't get ensnared in her fallacies, and leave it to the bishop to judge the matter.
Of course.
Goodbye.
Hey, clear off. No one's allowed to talk to Yochanka. Bishop Yaroslav's orders.
I know. I was just testing you. And you passed. I'm with the bishop's entourage, and I'm here at his command. Let me in to talk to Yochanka.
In that case, you surely know that everyone who comes from the bishop has to show a document to prove it.
Good, good. Your diligence is commendable. I don't have the document on me at present, though. I left it at the monastery.
Sorry, sir. We'll have to go and get it. I can't let you in otherwise. I wouldn't want to anger the Monsignor.
Of course. And you can actually read, can you?
A little, sir, yes. That's why they put me here.
Very wise. You're clearly the right man for the job. Very well. I'll be back soon with that paper.
I'll see you later.
Salami, sausages, meat of all shapes, sizes and flavours, cucumber,
Yeah.
and prunes.
Yeah.
Witnesses can be summoned for Yochanka's trial. So I wanted to ask you if you'd give a testimony. Maybe some learned speech in her defense?
I'd be glad to do it. Yochanka deserves my help. Such testimonies could carry a lot of weight. You should try and get as many as you can.
What actually happened here?
Yochanka told me you went to Auschwitz.
Yeah? What's that got to do with anything?
The Inquisitor showed up here not long after you left. Apparently he heard about Yochanka's preaching somehow. He even observed one of her sermons outside the town in disguise. He had her brought to him and spent a long time trying to discourage her from what she was doing. But then she went out again to preach about her visions outside of town. But before she even started, the Inquisitor turned up with Fabian and the guards. He said Yochanka had ignored his outright ban, and he had her taken away. Then he warned the people there that Yochanka was spreading heresy and undermining the church's authority, and forbade them to listen to her.
That's all? Didn't you speak to the Inquisitor?
No, actually I didn't. He saw me there listening to her preaching, and I was afraid to come forward and talk to him.
Aha. Well, that's understandable.
Thanks.
It sounds pretty serious.
It is. I'm afraid it could be very serious indeed.
Who is this Bishop Yaroslav?
I've never heard of him before, but the prior has. He said he's very well learned and the Bishop of Sarepta.
Sarepta? Where's that? Moravia?
No, it's far, far away, near the Holy Land. He got the title from the Holy Father himself.
Titular bishop? Like he's not a real one?
It's, let's say, an honorary title. it refers to a diocese that no longer exists. And since a titular bishop has no diocese to oversee, he can devote himself to handling other very important church affairs, like ordaining other prelates, for example, to maintain succession through the centuries down from the time of Christ and his apostles.
And this bishop came all the way here from whatever.
Sarepta, but I doubt he's ever been there. It used to be a bishopric in the days of the Apostolic Fathers in Phoenicia, near Israel, but it was ransacked by the Muslims. Now it's just a titular bishopric, and Yaroslav is the titular bishop.
I won't get any sleep. I just won't get any sleep.
Good luck then.
Yesterday evening. Still.
God be with you. What can I do for you? Take care.
God be with you.